What if Captain America ended up in the world of the boys? How would Vought react to a super soldier who can't be bought? Imagine this. It's the Battle of New York. Steve Rogers is midair, shield raised, closing a portal above Stark Tower when the energy around him flickers wrong, blue instead of gold. The portal doesn't close behind him. It swallows him. Steve hits pavement hard enough to crack it, rolls twice, and comes up with his shield already braced. Smoke clears. It looks like Manhattan. It isn't. The billboards are wrong. A grinning man in a stars and stripes cape, a logo that says Vought International, a slogan that reads, "Real heroes, real results." Steve lowers the shield an inch. Something about this place feels rehearsed, like a set dressed to look like home. His comms are dead. No Stark, no Fury, no team. Just Steve, alone, in a city that has never heard of the Avengers. He does what he's always done. He starts walking toward the sound of trouble. He finds it fast. A mugging outside a diner, 3 men, 1 terrified cashier. Steve doesn't announce himself, he just steps in, shield up, and 3 seconds later the men are zip-tied to a lamppost with his own belt. A woman filming on her phone asks who he is. "Just a soldier, ma'am," he says, and walks off before the police arrive. He doesn't know it yet, but the footage is already climbing to 1 million views by morning, and one company in this city notices everything that goes viral. Vought's marketing department watches the clip on a loop. No cape, no flashy blast, no product placement, and yet the comments are calling him the most trustworthy man in America. Madeline Stillwell doesn't see a soldier. She sees an untapped brand. Within 2 days, Steve is approached by a smiling VA representative with a contract already drawn up and a code name picked out: the Sentinel. They offer him a tower suite, a PR team, a seat among the country's most beloved heroes. Steve turns the folder back around without opening it. "I already have a uniform," he says. "I don't need another one." That answer doesn't sit well back at Vought Tower. Then Homelander walks into the room to see the man everyone's suddenly talking about. He expects fear. He gets a soldier who looks him dead in the eye without blinking. "You're not powered," Homelander says, almost disappointed. "No," Steve replies, "just stubborn." For the first time in a long time, Homelander doesn't know whether that's an insult or a warning. Steve isn't naive. He's fought enhanced men before, gods and monsters twice his size, and he knows exactly what he's looking at: someone who has never once been told no. He also knows this world doesn't have a Bucky and Sam or a Peggy waiting on the other end of a phone call. He's on his own here, and that thought sits heavier on him than any punch could. That night, a rougher-looking crew finds him first. Butcher's crew has been tracking the diner footage for different reasons. A man who beats down 3 armed muggers with nothing but a shield and doesn't take a cent for it isn't normal, not by Vought's definition of normal. Butcher slides into the booth across from him without asking. "You're either the stupidest bloke in this city or the only honest one. Which is it?" Steve doesn't answer right away. He asks about Vought instead, the real story, not the billboards. Butcher tells him about Compound Vi, about children dosed at birth, about a company that manufactures heroes and burns the failures. Steve's jaw sets the way it used to when a Hydra file crossed his desk. "I've seen this playbook before," he says quietly. Different name, same lie. He doesn't join Butcher's crew that night, not fully. He tells them plainly he won't kill, won't torture, won't cross the lines Butcher's already crossed 100 times over. Butcher just laughs. "Didn't figure you would." But he keeps Steve's number anyway, because a man Vought can't buy is worth more than an army of men who can be. Steve keeps working the way he always has. Small fires, break-ins, a bus with failed brakes. One honest act at a time, never for the cameras, always gone before anyone can thank him. Vought's numbers start slipping in a way no PR campaign can explain, because people have started asking why their heroes need billboards at all. He crosses paths with Queen Maeve on a rooftop stakeout that goes sideways. She's supposed to bring him in quietly for VA. Instead, she watches him pull 2 kids out of a collapsing fire escape with his bare hands. No hesitation, no audience. "Why do you even bother?" she asks him after. "If nobody's filming?" Steve looks at her like the question doesn't make sense. That's the whole point. Maeve doesn't have an answer for that. She's spent years pretending to be exactly what he actually is, and it's the first time the gap between the mask and the man has ever been pointed out to her without judgment. They start talking more than either of them plans to. Maeve tells him what the cape actually costs, the campaigns she didn't choose, the people she couldn't save because the optics were wrong. Steve tells her about a war he fought 70 years before either of them arrived here, and a world that, for all its horror, at least let him choose who he was. Somewhere between the rooftops and the safe houses, it stops being reconnaissance and starts being something neither of them says out loud yet. Homelander notices. He notices everything that used to belong to him and doesn't anymore. Maeve pulling away from mandatory appearances, the tabloids asking who the Sentinel really is. A room going quiet when Steve walks in instead of when he does. Stan Edgar, watching the same numbers Stillwell watches, makes the call plainly. Public trust is up, and it isn't because of Homelander. For a company built entirely on being loved, that's the only currency that matters. Homelander corners. Steve alone on the Vought Tower roof, the same trick he's used on every threat he's ever needed gone quietly. "You're going to have an accident tonight," he says, and he isn't smiling anymore. Steve raises the shield. "Tried that already, 9 times actually. Little green fella, ask him how it went." Homelander swings first. It isn't a fair fight and Steve knows that going in. Every punch that connects sends him skidding across concrete he shouldn't be able to survive. But 70 years of ice, war, and a body built by a serum that never fully left him means he gets back up every single time. Shield raised, jaw tighter than the last round. He isn't trying to win. He's stalling, because he already tipped off Butcher's crew, and Maeve is already climbing the stairwell behind Homelander with a decision written all over her face. The moment Homelander winds up for the blow, meant to finish it, Maeve steps between them. "That's enough," she says, and for the first time, she means it in front of him. Homelander's whole worldview cracks open in that second. Not just a soldier who won't fold, but his own teammate choosing him instead. Rage does what rage always does to Homelander. It stops thinking. He doesn't finish the fight that night. Butcher's crew floods the roof with exactly the kind of chaos Homelander hates most. Witnesses, phones, no clean narrative to spin. He retreats, and for the first time retreats looking rattled instead of amused. Vought doesn't let it end there. A smear campaign drops within days. Doctored footage of the Sentinel endangering civilians. A manufactured scandal built the same way they buried a dozen inconvenient truths before. Steve's response isn't a press conference. It's Butcher's files, Maeve's testimony, and 80 years of a reputation that Vought's marketing department simply cannot rewrite fast enough. The narrative collapses in under a week. Real footage always outlasts fake headlines. Stan Edgar calls Homelander in personally after that, and for once doesn't bother softening it. "He's costing us more than he's worth alive. Fix it, quietly this time." Homelander doesn't plan to be quiet. He finds Steve and Maeve together on the same rooftop where this started, and this time he brings back up nobody in this world was supposed to remember, Soldier Boy. Dragged out of decades of cold storage, still furious at a world that replaced him. 2 super soldiers from 2 different wars, staring at each other across a concrete rooftop under a bleeding sky. "Heard you're the new me," Soldier Boy says. Steve doesn't flinch. "I've heard about you too. Sounds like they broke you a long time before I got here." That lands harder than any punch would have. The fight that follows is the kind neither side walks away from clean. Homelander goes for Maeve first, precisely because he knows exactly what it will do to Steve. Steve throws himself in the path of a blast meant for her, and it's Soldier Boy, not Homelander, who hesitates, just for a second, watching a version of himself choose someone else over his own survival, something he was never once allowed to do. That hesitation is the opening Butcher's crew needed. Between Maeve's fists, a well-placed EMP built off Vought's own tech, and a Soldier Boy who suddenly isn't sure which side he's supposed to be on anymore, the tide turns hard and fast. Homelander is left on his knees on that rooftop for the first time in years. Powers guttering, the mask finally, completely gone in front of witnesses who won't be paid to forget it. Steve doesn't finish him. That was never the mission. He just looks down at him and says the only thing that actually needed saying. You were never the strongest man in the room. You were just the only one nobody stopped. Then he turns and walks to Maeve instead, because that's the part of the fight that actually matters to him. In the weeks after, something in this world shifts. Homelander's grip loosens for the first time since he was created. Maeve stops performing a version of herself built for cameras. Butcher's crew gains an ally who won't let them become the very thing they're fighting. And somewhere in a Vought sub-basement, the fracture in reality that first dropped Steve into this world hasn't closed. It's widened, quietly, patiently, waiting. Steve finds it one night, standing alone in front of it the way he once stood in front of a portal over New York. Except this time there's a life here worth staying for. He doesn't step through. Not yet. Somewhere on the other side, a war he started is still waiting to be finished. And somewhere on this side, for the first time since 1945, Captain America has a reason to stay exactly where he is. Would Captain America ever bend the knee to Vought? Or is this the world where Homelander finally meets someone who can't be bought, broken, or replaced? Let me know your take below.